I'm Judy Kokanis, and some of you know I've been really affiliated with West Ponderay Fire District for a long time. And we're in the process of trying to get impact fees initiated for our fire district. What are your concerns or feelings about impact fees?
I'm going to have to ask you to repeat the question, ma'am. I'm sorry.
What are your thoughts and feelings about impact fees for fire, EMS, that kind of thing?
About what?
Impact fees.
Impact fees. If you're speaking about impact fees as far as developments paying those impact fees
Yes,
for the expanded infrastructure, I think that these people should pay these fees. If they're the ones that are going to benefit from dividing up land, putting houses in, putting structures in of some type, they should be paying those fees because they're just going to pass those on to the people that buy the houses. Right? I don't believe that the existing taxpayers of Bonner County should be on the hook for some developer to make a ton of money by dividing up land or building homes. Let them be on the hook for that. Let them expand our tax base and let them pay for their infrastructure as they need it. I've been on the Clarkport Fire Department for 10 years. I was the fire chief for 4. I can tell you this, I run on the smallest budget you could imagine. My budget is less than $40,000 a year to run an entire fire department. We only run about 50 calls a year. But I got to tell you, at $50,000 or $40,000 a year, that's barely enough to maintain my vehicles and keep all of my firefighters in good gear. If I have to spend my tax dollars to improve roads or other infrastructure so some developer can make money, that means that my firefighters are going to be at risk. That means that your homes are going to be at risk. That also means that when you're out there on the road and you're in a car accident and your car's upside down and I show up to cut you out of your car, I may not have the most up-to-date equipment to make that happen. So as far as your question goes, ma'am, yes, the developers and the people moving here need to be making those improvements and they need to be paying for them.
Dave Bowman, District 3. Impact fees are long overdue here, and it's partly a matter of making developers pay for what they're doing, but it's also, you have to recognize that the people that are paying taxes today have already funded all the existing infrastructure that we have now, and that's fair, that's how it should be. But as development happens, subdivisions are getting put in left and right, properties being upzoned, it's going to cause further impact on public services, one of which is fire, and that's all of them. And the taxpayers that have already paid for the infrastructure that's in place now should not have to pay to have more infrastructure added, fire department, roads, any of it. Impact fees are a big thing and we need them badly. Thank you.
Jeff Conley, District 2. Impact fees, yes, I've supported it in the past. I still support it now. Priest River, when I was on council, we did do an impact fee. We supported the Northside Fire when they did their impact fee. It's a little different than the one that is in Priest River. The one in Priest River was per lot or, division. The one in Northside is actually per dwelling. So it is attached to any building location permit or building permit inside that Northside Fire boundaries. And I do believe for sure that development and growth should pay for itself. The state of Idaho has been kicking this impact fee around a little bit. They're trying to, for the county as large as it is and as spread out as it is, it's a little more difficult to do a county-wide impact fee. But as far as the local impact fee for the fire district, yes, I support that 100%.
Jeff, I think what she was talking about was as new development continually comes into our county, those developers specifically aren't paying the fees. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I'm all for it. Like I say, the legislation was going to, the legislators were hopefully going to simplify the way the impact fees are structured for counties so that it can be, right now it's so focused on wherever the impact is that you can't spread it just around the county. You have to do a pretty expensive and extensive study. But yeah, I'm 100% in support of that.
Mandy Flaherty, District 2. I have been, my platform is Smart Growth for Bonner County. And I have said, sorry, thank you. on numerous occasions how just this last year, we have recorded 300 subdivisions within our county. That's not including city plats as well. We have an overgrowth of infrastructure issues that we are currently facing. I have a plan, actually on paper. If you'd like to see it or a copy of it, I'd be glad to hand it to you. We need to have an infrastructure plan. We need to set up impact fees for development and allocate funds for developing roads, bridges, water systems, aquifers, sheriffs, EMS, fire, and schools. We need to work with legislature to get them to add schools to public facilities as they are currently not. This poses an issue that we need to have addressed for impact fees. Development is a major factor with influx of families and placing impact fees on development and not to the taxpayers of the county. Thank you.
So the short answer is yes, but in the last 5 years, we have commissioners that have had the time to plan forward for our development and growth. In the last 2 years, we've had significant growth in development. We've had a lot of increased density, a lot of zone changes that have impacted our infrastructure with no plan of how we're supposed to address that other than the current taxpayers footing that bill. And so there's been a lack of future planning of the growth and development, and one of those has always been we're not collecting money that we can be collecting for this growth and development that is occurring. And the question then comes is, can we afford a third term of not making that plan for growth and development because we've already had 5 and we still don't have the impact fees for the infrastructure that's failing the people currently? And the answer to me is no, we can't afford 5 more years of not making that a forefront, because right now we don't have the infrastructure, but we have an increase in zone change, an increase in density. We have people with concerns for their water, concerns for their wells. We're overburdening a system that has not been repaired. So what is the plan from the current commissioners? I think we need new ones.
I'm not sure if this question is for assessors also, but if I can, I'd like to answer it. So in short, yeah, I would support impact fees. Property taxes are a burden for everybody. That does involve the assessor, and if we don't have the impact fees, that extra burden that the community bears, the extra wear and tear on the roads, that does get passed on to folks that had already lived there. So it's appropriate to, if you're going to fund government, you can choose fees, you can choose taxes. I would prefer to have it go through fees so as to do our best to preserve our property taxes, or we can't figure out a way to lower them, but by no means raise them on new development. So.
Donna Gow, Warren County Assessor. I agree with impact fees. A lot of the cities do implement the impact fees to help pay for doing things that people that are already living here shouldn't have to pay for. So yes, I agree with impact fees.
Jesse Webster, yeah, I think that the burden of that should fall on the developers or anyone else that's coming to Bonner County and building a home. I assisted Northside Fire when they just went through the process of implementing their impact fees. It was eye-opening. It's kind of it was a long, convoluted process. We finally figured it out, and they were able to pass those impact fees via resolution. Some of these taxing districts operate on little to nothing, and so I think that any extra source of income for them and any, less money that we have to pay is always a good thing.
Yes, impact fees should be assessed to developers.
I agree. I agree also. Impact fees should be addressed. I've listened to everybody talking. We hear a lot about taxes and the effect that growth is having on our taxes. In regards to the fire department, correct me if I'm off base here, there's also an effect on what it does to our property insurance, to business property insurance. I remember sitting back when I was just a kid out in Sagal with my granddad, and we were talking about what was going to happen to our insurance and our taxes if the Sagal Fire Department wasn't properly funded. And there was a big community meeting on it. That was my first introduction to exactly the effect it has on insurances for your property. Then being in business out here, every time we went to do projects, we would have to go through and we'd also have to negotiate through our insurance contracts. And one of the first things they look at is the fire districts and how their funding is and how they sit. And then they reflect your insurance rates based on that. So yes, I agree.
That's a good question, and I'll tell you there is a very interesting answer to it. We have 54 taxing districts in Bonner County. That's a lot of services. There's a lot of challenges. There's also a lot of pride in this county, in the small areas as there should be, between the Selly Valley, between the people of Priest Lake, Upper Priest Lake, Hope, East Hope. And we start talking about development fees or impact fees, I absolutely believe that we should do a study as a county, and then we should put it to the people to determine whether or not they want to do it. Because here's the example that's important to me. I'm a high school teacher, and high school kids are pretty smart. They know where they can afford to live. Our kids cannot live in northern Idaho right now. As a guardsman, I talk to people from Bonner's Ferry, where I teach, all the way down to Moscow, where my sister teaches. My brother is 34. He bought 10 acres in the Selly Valley. That's 5 minutes from my parents' house. How much are we going to tax? So are we looking, so my brother, is he one of the newcomers that has to try to figure this out? He installs HVAC. He's a National Guardsman for the Air Guard because I told him he was too smart to join the Army like I did. We need to be very careful when we start talking about taxes, because it's real easy for me to say how much I'm going to raise your taxes, but it has a big impact upon people like my brother who's trying to make it in this county. I support the study, and I support the people of Bonner County making that decision whether or not we should use impact fees, but growth should pay for growth. Thank you.
So impact fees can be a slippery slope. I come from a state many, many decades ago where there were many impact fees, and it would literally cost someone $100,000 in impact fees and studies and red tape before you can even break ground building a house. So I would be cautious with the impact fees. They can be abused, bottom line. So it would have to be written very well to where it can't grow quickly. I understand the issues with the infrastructure and all. Do I believe that the people living here now need to bear that burden? The simple answer is no. So someone's gonna have to bear that burden, obviously, and most likely it would be the developers. Obviously, as the developers go, the developers need to bear the burden on it because they're the ones that are, I'm not gonna say raping the land, but they are making tons of money at our expense. We're the ones building the infrastructure for them. There's been some past instances where the county, it seemed like, was helping some of the big developers and all, and I don't know exactly what came of that, but it's not very transparent in my opinion. So I would be leery. But yes, if that's the only route that we can go without burdening the people that live here now, I would be in favor of it, limited.